Welcome to Backstage Pass with me, Carlos Miguel Prieto, with insights on this week's program with your North Carolina Symphony. So, this program has three works that go very, very, very deep into my heart. And they are Kauyumari by my friend Gabriela Ortiz, Appalachian, saying both to get one of them right, by Copland, Appalachian Spring, and The Night of the Mayas, La Noche de los Mayas by Silvestre Revueltas. Let's start in order with Kauyumari. Kauyumari by Gabriela Ortiz is a piece that was composed by this amazing friend of mine, composer. It was commissioned by the Los Angeles Philharmonic and also by my orchestra, Minería, to commemorate the coming back to an audience after the pandemic. I have to say that Gabriela Ortiz is someone that I've been working with for about 30 years. And I can't say I discovered her because that kind of talent discovers itself, but I've believed in her ever since I started doing what I'm doing. And in the last years, she's won more Grammys than any other composer. And she was last season the composer in residence of the Carnegie Hall. And in this season only, I'll name you 5 orchestras that are playing her work: Boston Symphony, New York Philharmonic, Chicago Symphony, Berlin Philharmonic, and Vienna Philharmonic. 5 orchestras. There are many, many more, and she deserves all this success because of her incredible talent and incredible personality. 10 years ago, I did a piece of hers here called Ominum, and she came. She came to North Carolina, which she remembers very fondly, and I do too. So this work, Kauyumari, is a work very much modeled after the idea of bolero in Ravel. So it's a simple theme in a kind of very Mexican meter that is repeated by more and more people in the orchestra until it exhausts itself. But it is a very modern take on this idea of repetition because it starts with antiphonal trumpets. So trumpets off stage right, off stage left, on stage right, and on stage left, responding to each other in a way that the sound wraps around you and the orchestra little by little builds upon that melody. It's a very impressive work. It's a showpiece that has been played in 4 or 5 years really all around the world, and I'm so happy we are doing it here. Now, what is Kauyumari, and in what language is that? The language of the people called the Huicholes. The Huicholes are people who were the old inhabitants of northwest Mexico and southwest of the United States, which were actually the same territory. So this world of Kauyumari, it's a mythical character for these people that talks about connection with the other world. And interestingly enough, both in California and in the northern part of Mexico, this language still exists. The language of the Huicholes and the language of Navajos is very similar. And the beliefs are very similar. So Gabriela's idea is to write a piece that will resonate both sides of the borders, knowing that just a few years ago there was no border, and that in reality for culture there is no border, and there is much more cross-border communication because the people are the same. And that is part of the reason why this piece has been so successful, not only because of its musical talent, but also because of what's behind it, which is a very strong message. After that, we will do a piece that perhaps, well, I won't say perhaps, needs no introduction, which is Appalachian Spring. Now, I've done Appalachian Spring for a long time, and it's always memorable. But the most memorable time for me was last year when we did it on the Western tour of the North Carolina Symphony. And what's memorable is not only the fact that the orchestra performed it so beautifully, but also that we did it exactly there. And I never even imagined that would be ever possible in my life. And it was memorable. It was memorable in a way that gives this piece even more meaning. So it's very interesting and very meaningful for me to come back home to Raleigh and do it here, having experienced it there. I have to say that I am someone who likes the smaller version. So Copland Original Ballet, which is a ballet that he wrote for the great choreographer Martha Graham, was written for a handful of musicians, for very small amount of strings with individual winds and with a piano. So a very small component of the orchestra. The piece was so successful that then he enlarged it for a larger orchestra. And in my mind, in this larger orchestra, some of the magic is lost. Some of it is expanded, so in reality it becomes more of a showpiece. But I like the simplicity and the intimacy of the original version, and that's the one that we are doing it. I also have to say that Copland himself preferred the original version, which also lends a little bit of importance to this preference for me. After Intermission is one of the pieces that I think I've performed the most in my life, and I would find it hard to find someone that's done it more than me around the world, which is the hugely impressive symphonic piece called The Night of the Mayas by Silvestre Revueltas. First of all, who was Silvestre Revueltas? Silvestre Revueltas is a composer that honors his name like no one else I know. First of all, his first name, Silvestre, means in Spanish wild, and he was a wild one. Second, Silvestre is because of the day he was born. At the time he was born, people would name kids due to the saint that honors the day that they are born. And he was born on the 31st of December of 1899. So the last day of the 19th century, on the night of Saint Sylvester, which is why his parents named him Silvestre. His last name, Revueltas, also means in Spanish convoluted, complicated. And he was convoluted, complicated. He was born in the north of Mexico, in the state of Durango, and then studied violin and composition both in Alabama and in Chicago. Then went to Mexico to work with Carlos Chavez, that you may remember from Sinfonía India, and in Mexico City became acquainted with some very, very important people who were living there, who were part of an incredible culture world at that time. And Revueltas only lived 30-something, I believe 40 years, and basically died from the sad complications from alcoholism. He pretty much drank himself to death, but he left us with more than a handful, let's say maybe 25 to 30 absolute masterpieces, starting with his incredible Sensei Maya, which is an amazing piece, to everything he wrote was touched by genius. And this work, The Night of the Mayas, is actually movie music from the 1930s, which uses as imagery and scenery the hugeness and poetry of the Mayan pyramids. Those of you who know Mayan culture know that the Mayans had already discovered the zero before anyone in Europe and many, many other things. So they were really very knowledgeable people, but very powerful people also. And this music and the film pays homage to not only their vitality, but also their poetry. The suite is about 30 minutes long and includes, brace yourself, 15 different percussion instrumentalists and about 25 different percussion instruments. So you will never see, I guarantee you will hardly ever see more percussion on this stage than you will see in this program, and especially for the Night of the Mayas. And I will make use again of some of my arsenal of percussion instruments, which I have here in Raleigh, and which I use as a base to ship these instruments wherever I'm asked to do this music, because, like a good cook, which I am not, I like the taste of original things. So in this program, we will use a big drum that is an old Aztec drum that's called huehuetl, which is big, about this big, and is a bass drum that is played horizontally. We will use a log drum that's called teponaztle. It will be a real experience for you. The whole piece is very spectacular and very unique. And I will tell you, since you are so nice and watch these podcasts, which I am very grateful for, that if you clap loudly, we will play something for you that is one of the most important pieces of music to come out of my country, which is Mexico. So this is the last program of the season for me, and it is especially meaningful that I am given the chance to honor America 250 with perhaps the most iconic piece of classical music to come out of the United States in the 20th century, which is Appalachian Spring, or Appalachian Spring, by my beloved Aaron Copland, along with a recent work by my friend Gabriela Ortiz that was premiered only 5 years ago, and along with a classic from Mexico, The Night of the Mayas. I see a lot of very important symbols for me, and the most important is the fact that music is such an amazing way to connect different cultures. And just like Appalachian Spring on its own connects different cultures, since the meaning of that area is connecting different cultures, the fact that I've expanded this all the way to the western part of the U.S. and the northwest of Mexico with Kauyumari, and all the way down to the Yucatan Peninsula, which is such a marvelous place, we really do a whole tour with this beautiful program of music. And I really hope that you will enjoy it. I will certainly enjoy it. I want to say how grateful I am at the chance of putting together these podcasts. They are zero academic. They just come directly from the heart. And they're actually designed to give you a little bit of an intro into why each program is special to me, but also special to us as an institution. So thank you for paying attention to us, and stay connected, because we are always going to be doing interesting programs for you. Thanks for joining us for Backstage Pass. For information on more concerts, visit ncsymphony.org.